When you're standing in front of the TV and wondering whether a full-in 5.1 system is really worth the extra space and expense, that hesitation is completely normal. You've probably heard the hype about Dolby Atmos and imagined a theater-like sound field, but you also worry about ending up with a set of speakers that look good on paper and then sit silent in the corner because they don't blend with your room. That's the exact spot I want to land in today, helping you decide if the Klipsch reference our 625FA 5.1 home theater pack actually delivers a usable, immersive experience without turning your living room into a tech showroom. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest question most buyers ask is whether a bundled package can replace the mix-and-match approach that many audiophiles swear by. This kit gives you 2 upward-firing Atmos speakers, a pair of bookshelf speakers, a center channel, and a powered 10-inch subwoofer, all in a matching black textured wood grain finish. The idea is simple: you get a complete front left/right, center, surround, and sub setup that's already color-coordinated and engineered to work together. For someone who wants a clean look and doesn't want to spend hours researching individual drivers, that integration is a real strength. Now, let's talk about where the value really shows up in day-to-day use. I set this system up in a 12 by 15 foot room that already had a 55-inch 4K TV on a low TV stand. The 2 Atmos speakers sit on top of the front left and right bookshelf units, angled slightly upward. Because they fire sound toward the ceiling, you don't need to mount them on the wall, just place them at ear height and let the sound bounce off a reasonably high ceiling. In practice, this gave me a noticeable sense of height when watching a movie like Gravity. The rockets seemed to swoop overhead rather than staying flat on the screen. The bookshelf pair, the R625FA, are compact enough to sit on a modest media console yet still manage a clear mid-range. I used them for everything from sitcoms to sports, and the dialogue stayed intelligible even when the commentary was layered over crowd noise. That's where the dedicated center speaker, the R52C, shines. It anchors the dialogue and makes sure that the on-screen actors sound like they're right in front of you, not coming from a distant soundstage. The center's placement directly beneath the TV kept the soundstage anchored and prevented the holothemetal feeling that cheaper systems sometimes produce. The subwoofer, the 100SW, is a 10-inch, 300-watt powered unit. In a room of this size, it gave enough low-end punch to feel the rumble and explosions without overwhelming the mids. I'll be honest, if you're used to a sub that can shake the floor in a larger home theater, this one might feel a touch restrained. However, the sub's built-in crossover lets you dial it back if the bass gets too boomy on bass-heavy music tracks. The magnetic grille, while removable for cleaning, can vibrate slightly at high volumes, so you'll want to tighten the screws if you plan on cranking the volume for a movie night. One practical trade-off worth mentioning is the need for an AVR that can actually decode Dolby Atmos. The speakers themselves will reproduce height information, but if your receiver only outputs standard 5.1, you won't get the full 3-dimensional effect. Most mid-range AVRs released in the last couple of years support Atmos, but it's still a point that catches first-time buyers off guard. Also, the upward-firing design assumes a fairly reflective ceiling. Very low or heavily carpeted ceilings can dull the height cues. If you have a low, heavily insulated attic, you may not experience the full Atmos immersion. Who should buy this package? If you're a movie lover or gamer who wants a noticeable upgrade from a basic soundbar but isn't ready to dive into a full component-by-component build, this pack hits a sweet spot. The matching aesthetics keep the setup looking tidy, and the fact that everything you need is in the box eliminates the guesswork of pairing a center, surrounds, and sub from different brands. It also makes sense for apartments or smaller homes where you need to maximize performance without taking up a wall mount rack full of separate units. Who should skip it? If your primary listening environment is a dedicated home theater room with a lot of acoustic treatment, you might find the bass a bit light and the upward-firing speakers limited compared to true in-ceiling modules. Audiophiles who demand the absolute highest resolution, or anyone who already owns high-end floor-standing speakers, may feel the R625FA's performance is a step down from their expectations. Likewise, if you're limited on ceiling height, say, Under 8 feet the reflected sound can feel compressed, and you'd be better off with sidewall or ceiling-mounted Atmos modules. Another point that often gets overlooked is cable management. The speakers use standard binding post connections, which is straightforward, but you'll need speaker wire runs from the AVR to each unit. For a clean look, you may have to run the wires through the wall or use